notice that all experience is accompanied by the fact of being aware. Whatever we are experiencing, we are aware of it. Whatever thoughts are taking place in our mind, they are known. We are aware of them. Whatever we might be feeling, we may be depressed, lonely, sad, or we may be at peace, ecstatically happy, or newly in love. Whatever we are feeling, we are aware of those feelings. Whatever we are perceiving, that is, whatever sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and smells are present, we are aware of them. If our eyes are open, we are aware of the sight of this room. The sound of my voice is known. So see that being aware or knowing accompanies all experience, irrespective of the content of experience. So become interested in the experience of being aware. Become interested in the knowing with which your experience is known. That is, cease being exclusively fascinated by your thoughts and feelings, by your sensations and perceptions. Cease even being interested in the words that I am speaking. Be interested in that with which they are known. The awareness with which we are aware of them. The common name for the knowing with which all knowledge and experience are known. The common name for the experience of being aware or awareness itself is I. I know my thoughts. I am aware of my feelings and sensations. I perceive the world. In other words, when I suggest be aware of the knowing with which your experience is known, or be aware of the experience of being aware, it's another way of saying simply, be aware of yourself. Be aware of that to which we refer when we say I. Not the thoughts that we have, not the feelings, sensations, and perceptions that come and go in our experience. But I, the knowing element, the aware element in all experience. Now, when I say become aware of yourself or become aware of the experience of being aware, due to the limitations of language, I subtly suggest that you are one thing and awareness is something else that you can be aware of, in the same way that you are aware of the sound of my voice or the sight of this room. I don't mean to imply that. You are the awareness. I am the awareness with which all knowledge and experience are known. So I am speaking to you, awareness. You, awareness. Cease for the time being shining the light of your knowing, shining your attention on the objects of experience. And come back to yourself. I'm saying to awareness, be aware of yourself, be aware of being aware. Awareness is knowledge of itself. Being aware of being aware is a unique experience. It is the only experience there is. The only experience there is that does not take place in subject-object relationship. The I that knows is the I that is known. All other knowledge and experience take place in duality. I know my thoughts. I love you. I perceive the tree. A subject knowing, feeling, or perceiving an object. But in this unique experience, awareness is knowledge of itself. The subject of the experience and the object of the experience are one. So don't try to find yourself, don't try to find the experience of being aware as an object of experience, as one might find a thought, a feeling, a sensation, or a perception. Just allow your attention to come back to rest in its source or essence. Being aware of being aware doesn't seem to be much from the point of view of the object-knowing mind. But if we are being aware of the experience of being aware, if we are knowing the knowing with which all knowledge and experience are known, we are engaged in the highest form of prayer or meditation there is. It is the meditation for which all other meditations are a preparation.
You use often the term, the expression, be knowingly, the presence of awareness. And can you say something more about that? Because it sounds like a decision. Sounds like a decision. It's something, this be knowingly. What do you exactly mean by that expression?
I mean that everybody is already essentially the presence of awareness. But in most people's experience, the presence of awareness in them has become so mixed up with their experience that they have lost touch with the knowledge and the feeling of themselves as awareness, and instead know and feel themselves as a mixture of thoughts, images, feelings, memories, etc. So the reason I say be knowingly rather than become the presence of awareness is because we already are the presence of awareness, but most of us fail to notice that. So it's another way of saying notice what you really are. Don't become some new or special or enlightened sense. But that's what I mean. Notice that you are already this ever-present, unlimited, and inherently peaceful awareness.
Yes. And then you said this sometimes can get eclipsed or veiled. And I think on Saturday morning you said, unless you do not give it permission to do so.
Yes. The reason I said that is because our true nature of awareness is never really eclipsed by experience, because all experience is made only of the knowing of it, the awareness of it. So all there is to experience is awareness and its activity. So there is nothing in awareness other than awareness with which awareness could really be veiled. Just as all there is to a movie is the screen. So that the movie never really veils the screen, because there is nothing to the movie other than the screen. However, in spite of this fact, when we're watching a movie, and this is a conventional movie, we're sitting on a sofa, when we're watching a movie, we sometimes forget that we are seeing the screen, and at the moment of forgetting that we are seeing a screen, we imagine that we are seeing a landscape. We're not really seeing a landscape, but we feel that we are. The screen is not really veiled. All there is to the landscape is the screen. We are only seeing the screen, but we believe and feel we are seeing a landscape. We have given the image permission to veil the screen. And at the moment we grant the image permission to veil the screen, it seems to do so. We no longer think we see the screen, we feel we see the landscape. The moment we withdraw that permission, the screen doesn't suddenly come into view, it was always in view, but we see the screen knowingly. Previously we were seeing the screen unknowingly. So all there is to experience is the knowing of it. This ordinary experience, the perception of this room and the sound of our words, all there is to that experience is the knowing of it. It is made, if you to touch the stuff your experience is made of, all that is there is knowing or pure experiencing. So there's no question of knowing or consciousness being veiled, because there is nothing in knowing other than knowing with which knowing could be veiled. That's why Balayani said, I veiled myself with myself. It's like the screen assuming the form of the landscape and seeming to veil itself with its own activity. All experience is the activity of consciousness. Consciousness seems to veil itself with its own activity, but all there is to its activity is itself, and therefore it is no real veiling. Mm-hmm. Unless consciousness consents to lose itself in its own activity, in which case it will seem to lose touch with its knowledge of itself. It will seem to become something other than itself, such as a person. This veiling activity, consciousness veils itself with its own activity, and then it returns to itself or reveals itself to itself. So consciousness has this veiling and revealing quality. It veils itself for the sake of manifestation. It reveals itself for the sake of happiness.
Distraction is a problem, though, because then I lose it and attend to the distraction.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is that you don't, this first part of your three-step process, recognize, rest, your two steps that you take, the recognition and the rest. All I would say is that the recognition, it's not really the the recognition or the memory of something that took place in the past. What you're doing is you're not going back into the past, you're going back to the essence of your mind. You're not really going back in time, although that's the way the mind formulates it to you. But what you're really doing is going back to the source of your mind, to the awareness, as it were, behind your mind. Because when you wake up from deep sleep doesn't disappear. Deep sleep is the presence of consciousness. All that happens is that consciousness begins to color itself in the form of experience. So you can't remember the deep sleep that you remember in the past is in fact just the presence of awareness right now in the background of your mind. And it's easy for you to go there. You just go back to the experience of being aware. Like if I were to ask you now, in the midst of our conversation with your eyes wide open, just become aware of the experience of being aware.
And I can do that until you tell me to tie my shoe.
Okay, well, so now just be aware of the experience of being aware during our conversation. And now, whilst remaining aware of the experience of being aware, start tying your shoe. You see, distractions are only distractions if we give them permission to distract us from consciousness. If we give them that permission, they will seem to do so. Just like the movie only obscures the screen if we give it permission to do so. But right now, consciousness is not obscured by experience. It is shining in your experience. There is nothing to your experience other than consciousness. What could distract you from consciousness? What is there in experience other than the knowing of it, with which consciousness could be veiled? What you're saying is, as soon as the movie begins, I cease seeing the screen. And I have to go back to the memory of the screen before I turn the movie on in order to see it again. But it's not so, unless you believe that it is so.
I think the confusion might be that...
Don't have a preference for awareness without objects. Don't have a preference for your screen without a movie, because even when the movie is playing on the screen, there is still only the screen. But don't preference awareness without objects. Awareness without objects is only awareness. Awareness with objects is only awareness. So what is the preference you're making?
So you're saying there's continuity there already, so I really don't have to do anything?
Yes. Right now, are you knowing anything other than the knowing of your experience? If you were to touch any element of your experience now, do you find anything there apart from knowing?
Say the question again.
If you were now to touch any element of your experience, a thought, a feeling, a sensation, the sound of my voice, the sight of this room, an emotion, anything, if you were to touch any experience intimately now, would you find anything other than the knowing of that experience, the consciousness of that experience?
No.
That is consciousness. All you are experiencing now is consciousness. All you, consciousness, are experiencing now is consciousness. And yet you're saying, I have to get away from my current experience in order to experience consciousness. It's like saying I have to turn the movie off to see the screen. All there is to the movie is the screen. Consciousness is shining in and as this experience.
Well, that I understand both directly and intellectually. But maybe the tricky part I misunderstand is when you say awareness being aware of itself, that to me suggests that the focus of even the focus of local attention is on the awareness of knowing you're aware.
It's true.
Because I know it shines all the time.
It's true that in the early stages of this investigation, when for one who is lost in his experience, in his thoughts and perceptions, to that one we initially take a step back from experience to the experience of being aware. We make this distinction between the objects of experience and awareness. And we talk about being aware of being aware. But then we come back to experience and see that there is only the knowing of it. And then we no longer make we no longer preference pure awareness over the objects of experience, because all there is to the objects of experience is consciousness. It's consciousness with our eyes open, it's consciousness with our eyes closed. That is, it's consciousness in the presence of objects, it's consciousness in the absence of objects. And then distractions are no longer distractions. Then the movie no longer distracts us from the screen. It shines with the screen.
I can't help but compare the deep dreamless sleep, stillness and peacefulness.
But it's fine to go back to that, to go back to rest in the experience of being aware from time to time. That's fine, but that was not your question. Your question was in the difficulty you have when you go out again to objective experience. So I don't have any problem with you going back to pure consciousness, whether you access it through a memory or however. I've got no problem with that. But I was addressing your question, what about when you ask me to tie my shoes? Then I seem to lose the experience of being aware. So I'm trying to collapse the distinction you're making between pure consciousness and experience, so that you feel that during experience, not just in the absence of experience, you are in touch with the peace of your true nature.
There's times during those experiences when it's not so peaceful.
Yes.
So it doesn't really replicate the deep dreamless.
Exactly. It's because you have still invested your experience with the power to veil consciousness. And as a result, it seems to veil consciousness. You have given your experience permission to veil the peace of your true nature. You consider it a distraction, and it appears in accordance with your belief. So I'm trying to help you, not intellectually, but in your experience, to see that experience is only the knowing of it, is only the consciousness of it, just as the movie is only the screen. And therefore to dissolve this preference you have for finding peace in the background of experience, although it's perfectly legitimate to do that. I'm not suggesting you should stop doing this practice. It's a beautiful practice. But you also want to experience this peace in the midst of experience, not just only in the absence. So I'm trying to give you an experiential way of knowing this peace while you're tying your shoes, as well as when you're not. Is it clear to you that you are awareness now? You are that which is aware of your experience.
Mm-hmm.
You are not your thoughts. You are that which is aware of your thoughts. You are not your sensations and perceptions. You are that which is aware of your sensations and perceptions, because thoughts, sensations and perceptions continuously appear and disappear. But you, the one that knows them, remains.
Yes.
You are the knowing element in your experience.
Yes.
You are the knowing factor in all experience.
So why do they make it such a big deal?
You tell me, I don't know.
No.
Just right now, in the waking state, just be knowingly the presence of awareness. You already are that, so you don't have to make a great effort to be that. Just let experience flow through you. That's what experience is doing anyway, so you may as well let it.
Yes.
You see, you have been very heavily conditioned by the Indian tradition, by the classical Indian tradition. So that's making it difficult for you. There's something beautiful about that. There are many beautiful aspects to the classical tradition, but it also comes with its baggage that you are struggling to get over. You don't quite trust the simplicity and the directness of your own experience. You now are aware of your experience. Whatever you are experiencing, however pleasant or unpleasant it might be, you are aware of it. And that's always the case. always the case, whatever your experience is. So experience kind of flows through this field of being aware. Yeah, you are the field of being aware through which experience flows. And whether you like it or not, experience is always moving. There's no such thing as a static experience. All experience is continuously moving, changing, and vanishing. But you, the medium through which it flows and with which it is known, doesn't move or change or disappear. Most of us are so focused on the moving, changing, disappearing content of experience that we overlook the simple presence of ourself, not some extraordinary enlightened state, or just the simple presence of being aware. Nothing extraordinary, nothing enlightened, nothing mystical, nothing that Ramana Maharshi had access to that you and I don't have access to. Just this very ordinary awareness, this space-like awareness through which all our experience flows and with which all our experience is illuminated. That is what you are. Just see that and be that knowingly.
That's why I'm so drawn to you, because you just keep it so simple and clear.
Yes. But the
We all are here.
important thing is, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm touched by what you say, but don't be drawn to me.
Yeah.
Be drawn to the experience of being aware. That's what you really want. Being aware is the most intimate thing in your experience. It's even closer to you than breathing. Hold your breath just for 5 seconds. Did you stop being aware? No. So breathing can come and go, but you never come and go. It's closer to you than your own breath.
Right.
It's closer to you than your most cherished feelings and relationships. It's not even close to you as if you were one thing and it were another. It is you. Not some special you, not some enlightened you, not some marvelous state of consciousness, just the ordinary, everyday experience of being aware. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only awareness there is, this ordinary, everyday awareness. Just know that you are that, see that you are that, and just be that knowingly. You are that already, whether you know it or not. We all are. So that's why I say be that knowingly. Know that you are that and stand as that. Instead of standing as a bundle of thoughts, feelings, activities and relationships, stand as the experience of being aware, or awareness itself. Still continue to have thoughts and feelings. Still continue to engage in activities and relationships as much as you like. But don't let your thoughts, feelings, activities and relationships obscure your knowing of yourself, or your being yourself knowingly.
Yeah.
That's all. And the more you abide as that, the more its innate peace and fulfillment will gradually impress itself upon you. It will creep up behind you. First of all, you'll feel this peace in the background of experience, but in time it will begin to flood the foreground of your experience and permeate your relationships with friendliness. The world will cease to be a hostile place. You'll feel the world is a friendly place.